defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. And let me just start off here, ladies and gentlemen, and apologize here. I am coming to you guys a little bit later than I usually do on Tuesday. I'm just sorry, I have so much going on, farming during the day. We're trying to get the first irrigation going here, and it's been hot as hell out. We got to get water to the crops. And then, I'm working night shifts at the airport, so working until 11 o'clock at night, don't get home until around midnight. So it's been crazy out here, but it's okay. I'm getting through it, and I'm going to be just fine. Just transitioning here, and I'm going to get it all figured out, so nothing for you guys to worry about. And Freedom Fest is coming up for those of you who plan on attending out there. It's July 18th through the 22nd. I strongly urge all my listeners, you guys should go to Freedom Fest. I can't stress it enough how important that was for me going to that conference for the very first time in 2014. And going there that first time in 2014 is what compelled me and what made me want to start my show, my podcast. So I'm telling you guys, please go to Freedom Fest. Learn from some of the most brilliant minds out there. It is so worth the small registration fee that you pay. And heck, you're in Las Vegas too if you like to gamble or just kind of go see the shows over there. There's just so much to do in Las Vegas, whatever you like, whatever you fancy. So anyway, guys, I hope I'll see you there. And now, there's just so much going on out there, in terms of global affairs. But, I like to keep this show focused on what's happening domestically here in the United States and mostly economics. Because, if I spread myself too thin, then it's like, okay, you can go to someone else to get the other stuff, right? I think this show, I want to keep it focused on economics because that's mainly what I like to talk about. And if it's not something I really want to talk about, then, it's probably not going to make for a good episode, right? So, I stumbled across this piece from Steve Moore in the Washington Times. Now, Steve Moore I've had on the show. It was right before Freedom Fest in 2015. I had him on. And Steve Moore is a really great guy. But, he's more of a supply sider. He's not an Austrian. He really comes down more on the Republican side of things. But he is an economist, and he does do a lot of great things. And, there's just some ways that, we disagree on some things. And, just because he is seeing things more from the Republican go our team sort of perspective. Compared to me, just more of a libertarian Austrian point of view on things. Just get the government the hell out of the way. Sort of aspect. Now the government completely destroys everything it puts its little mittens on. Okay, so in this piece here, he's kind of pointing out and talking about, growth. Can we achieve, the 3% growth that Trump is pushing for? And actually, he starts out his piece saying this: every day there are legions of new economists who dismiss the Donald Trump economic agenda and his forecast of 3% growth as a wild-eyed fantasy. The consensus is that the economy can't possibly grow at 3%, says the Wall Street Journal. Slow growth is the new norm, so get used to it, writes Rusir Sharma, Morgan Stanley, chief global strategist at Morgan Stanley in Foreign Affairs magazine this month. Okay, so I hope I said that guy's name right, but I'm kind of doubtful of that. So with what he just said here, there's a lot of people pointing out, especially, the left side of things. Like, hey, you can't achieve 3% growth. No. We're in the new normal. And what I really like what Steve Moore did is he throws up a graph on his piece here. It's a bar graph. And he's showing the Obama budget forecast, what they're forecasting for growth in the economy. And then they're looking at what actually happened in that year. And so if you look at this thing, like say 2010, okay, Obama, it's a recovery summer that Biden likes to talk about. Well, the Obama team were thinking they'd get 3.2% growth, GDP growth that year in 2010, and they got 2.5. 2011, they expected 4%. They got 1.6. In 2012, they're like, now we got to double down. We're going to get 4.6% growth. And the economy actually got 2.2% GDP growth. And then 2013, 4.4% is what the Obama team projected. And they got 1.7%. So on and on here. And he has this graph go out till 2015. And the Obama economic team keeps projecting growth of about 4%, and we're getting around 2% to under 2% growth. And so now here's these same leftists saying that, oh no, we can't possibly achieve 3% growth. Nope, it's not possible. But here Obama, during his time in office, that's what they were expecting they were going to get, based on the Keynesian stimulus, all that sort of stuff. Well, Donald Trump, he's a Republican and he believes in tax cuts. Oh no, that can't achieve that sort of growth. But see, here's where Steve Moore and I can kind of disagree, is that he thinks with tax cuts, we can grow out of these deficits. And that's kind of the supply sider mentality. But I think with a $20 trillion national debt, our debt is way too big. We can't grow out of this with tax cuts. We are beyond that. And see, here's the thing too, that a lot of supply siders, where they go off track, is that they think, well, if we just cut taxes, okay, yeah, that can spur growth, that increases incentives for people to produce and not to try to hide from the tax man. They're more willing to, reveal their actual earnings instead of trying to hide them. All that sort of stuff will take place if we actually reduce taxes. But still, all that can get wiped out easily by what happens when interest rates actually go to above the levels they're at now. The interest on the debt that we're paying about $260 billion a year right now. What happens when that goes to 5%? All these gains you think you're going to get from tax cuts aren't going to be there. And also the problem is that, okay, yeah, we cut taxes, but if the government still wants to spend the same amount of money, that's going to lead to, we're going to have deficits, larger deficits. And maybe the government's going to want to spend more. You can't be, if you're cutting taxes and growing the size of debt and growing the size of government spending, that doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, all government spending is taxation. So if the government still plans on increasing government spending by a certain percentage, it could be very small, just a couple percentage a year. You want to increase government spending, whatever it is, you want to increase the military budget, tens of billions of dollars, whatever you want to do. Overall, like the Republicans when George W. Bush was in office, when the Republicans controlled the Senate, the House, and the presidency like they do right now, guess what? The Republicans weren't constrained. They did not shrink the size of government. And so all government spending is taxation. So you're actually, you're advocating for tax cuts, for reduction in taxes, but if you're trying to increase government spending at the same time, that is increasing taxes. So it's like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, but it's kind of deceiving in that way. And so that's where I see a lot of supply siders go off base here. And I don't see them really talking about getting serious about cutting spending. But now Steve Moore does allude to this problem I'm kind of speaking of a little bit, of cutting government spending and wasting it, that sort of thing. And he says it right here. The major reason we are told we can't get growth is that we have so many millions of baby boomers retiring. But we have 100 million people over the age of 16 outside of the labor force today or unemployed. And that's a giant labor pool to get workers from. Most of them are young, not old. This is a gigantic pool of workers to tap into if Washington would stop spending $1 trillion a year paying people not to work. Okay, hey, I obviously agree with them there. Spending $1 trillion a year with paying people not to work, that's not very productive use of your money. That's not going to grow an economy. You're just taking from people, giving to others, and they're just spending it. No, like what Nancy Pelosi thinks, giving more money and giving stimulus money to people on food stamps, that's not going to create some sort of massive multiplier in the economy and cause us incredible growth. I'm sorry, but the Keynesians out there that believe that sort of nonsense, that's exactly what it is. It's nonsense. And then he says later on here, next paragraph I think it is, another fallacy is that this long recovery means the economy is due for a recession. No, for much of America, this has been a long recession, not a long recovery. We are suffering from a severe growth deficit. The economy is $3 trillion behind where it should be because of the shallow recovery, so the economy is teed up for a boom, not a bust. Okay, well, I can kind of agree with him here. Obviously what's been going on these last, since the crash of 2008, we have been in a long recession. But within this recession, we've had little bubbles popping up here and there. But we still have bubbles that are growing and growing. So what he's talking about that, okay, now our economy is set up for a boom, I disagree. I think, yes, after these bubbles completely deflate, when we can start and we can clear out all these malinvestments in the economy and we can put our scarce valuable resources to their most productive uses by allowing another recession to occur. Yes, it's going to be worse than 2008, but once that happens, you can clear the table and we can start a massive boom, like Steve Moore's talking about here. But we have to clear out all that, whatever you want to call it, baggage, all this, it's just horrible investments out there. Like I've made time and time again the point about the auto sector and how all these people are buying cars that shouldn't be buying cars. They're buying cars because of the low interest rates and the ability to get loans and all that. And that's leading to people who are not in the most financially, best position. I didn't say that in the best way there, but people are just looking at the payments. Okay, yeah, I can afford $300 a month for a car payment. Sure, I need a new car. Yeah, this would be great. But if you lose your job in the future, or if the rosy scenario you have painted in your head, thinking that Trump's going to make everything great again, if all that comes to pass, and if all that doesn't really happen, and say your condition actually gets worse, say we do enter another recession, what do? Are you able to make those $300 payments you thought you could make? Say your spouse loses his or her job. Can you still make that $300 payment on your new car? For most people, the answer is no, because most people live paycheck to paycheck. And that's what's scary out there. People live with no sort of little cushion that any little thing happens and they're SOL. I just did an episode, was that last week, talking about how, what is it? Dang, I can't even remember the number right now. A huge percentage of the population doesn't have more than $1,000 in their bank account where they can't provide for an emergency. That is scary. And so I don't see our economy on strong footing right now. So I don't see our economy on strong footing right now. So I don't see us set up for a boom like Steve Moore suggests right here. We need to have a stable foundation. And that's built on, we need actually some capitalism and not just a bunch of this funny money floating around. And it's going to these government-favored projects and government-favored industries. Look at all the money that Tesla's received. Because the government favors green technologies. All this sort of stuff. We need to get Washington the hell out of the way. And now here Steve Moore ends it, and he makes a good point here. He finishes off the piece with this. How do we ignite that boom? Nearly every policy during the Obama years was anti-growth. Tax increases, minimum wage hikes, Obamacare, Dodd-Frank regulations, massive debt spending, the Paris Climate Change Accord, an EPA assault against American energy, massive expansions of programs like food stamps and disability, and on and on. If Mr. Trump is able to shift these policies into reverse, especially by getting tax rates down, not up, 3 to 4% growth is easily achievable, and the economics profession will be proven dead wrong again. Now, obviously, I completely agree with what he's saying here. How a lot of the things that during the Obama years that Obama was pushing for, like he mentioned, the tax increases, trying to increase minimum wage, Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, all of this, they wanted more regulations, more government. And, Obama almost doubled the national debt in his little short 8 years in office. Felt like a very long time. Those are all the wrong things. And instead of making these problems better, instead of actually having solutions of what happened in 2008, no, we've doubled down on the problem. And that's why the problem has only gotten worse since 2008. So I definitely see this a lot different than Steve Moore, than that we are set up for a massive bust that's going to get worse before it gets better. But I do see light at the end of the tunnel. But that's why it's so important that you and I, we get out there and we need to, first and foremost, we have to understand what the heck's going on ourselves. And then from that point, we can learn and we can explain it to others. Because this stuff is complicated. Most people don't want to sit down and read a book on economics. Are you kidding me? Most people don't even read at all. So we have a lot going against us, but I think more and more people are catching on to our message. And even, use the populist sort of stances, use them to our advantage. Look at how when Ron Paul was running in 2008, how he was talking about ending the Fed. That really became a populist movement. Even people who in general would disagree with you and I, who are probably socialists, they want to end the Fed. We can get people to catch on to little bumper sticker slogans like that. That can help us out. But people don't understand, and people won't really understand how bad things are until it actually happens, or until they realize that it affects them. Right now, people don't see that it's really being affected by them. It's like, oh yeah, okay, sure, we're in massive debt, but that's not going to affect us. They don't see it as being immediate. Because we live in such a society where, look at, everyone's buying things on payments. Everybody wants things now as opposed to later. Nobody wants to wait. Nobody has patience anymore. So when you're talking about a crisis that feels like it's so distant to a lot of these people, or like it's not going to happen, or it can't happen here. We're the United States of America. The world looks to us. People are going to realize that, yeah, they should have maybe listened to the friends that have been explaining all this stuff to them. But when the next crisis does happen, and say you have planted the little seed in their head, like, hey, yeah, this is the sort of things I see coming, and it does come to happen, they're going to come to you for the answers. And that way, instead of those people picketing and attacking businesses, we can put the blame where it should be. And that lies in Washington, D.C., politicians in general, and government. Those are the people who are causing the problems that we face today in this massive debt. And it's going to come down to, the only way out of this is for people to see the power of the individual again. We need to get back to, a lot more of a free market than we have now. We're not even close to a free market. Everything in our lives today, every activity you engage in is regulated by the government. And so people need to see that the government isn't some unbiased third party, that it actually hampers the individual. It actually makes us worse off. It's not a protector like these people naively believe. And so anyway, guys, I'm going to keep this short. I thank you guys so much for being here. You can catch up on old episodes at my website. You can go to justinmooreshow.com, Moore spelled M-O-H-R. I'm also on iTunes, Stitcher, the Google Play Store. I'm all over the place. And also, if you guys could, help me out here by making your Amazon purchases through my website. I have a little link right there. That link, you click on it, it takes you right to Amazon's homepage. Any goods you buy through that link, I get a small commission back. It's not costing you anything extra. So if you guys could do that, or donate to me via PayPal, or join Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom through my link, all those are ways to help me out, and that would be amazing. And I really do appreciate you guys for doing that, and the more the better. So please, guys, please, I thank you so much for being here. I'll talk with all you next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.